everybody, welcome to Allegory's Horror Stories, and my name is not Ella, but you can call me that if you like. Uh, I go by that, just I think more as a branding kind of thing. And this is the first time I've been live in some time. This is actually the first time I've updated the channel in some time, so I hope you are keeping well. I know I haven't been around for too long, but a lot has changed. I've finally, I think I mentioned in my last update, I have found an apartment for the first, and I'm housed for the first time in 2 years, which I'm really, really happy and excited and blessed uh, just to be here. And as you can see, I actually have access to a kitchen, although we're pretty chaotic right now, so I'm not going to show you too much of it, not going to give you the grand tour. So what I want to do today is a little bit different. I was going to start, again, because I have access to a kitchen for the first time in many years, where I can sit and talk and cook and prepare something. I wanted to try a segment called Cookin and Bookin. I have bought a copy of the Gothic cookbook. And I'm sorry, I'm going to be looking over here because my Kindle is set up on my laptop. So I apologize for turning my back on my audience. Okay, Gothic cookbook. Okay, so the authors are Ella Buchan and Dr. Alessandra Pino, and each chapter is dedicated to a Gothic book, and they pretty much do stick to a lot of classics, but some modern things as well. So the first chapter is called A Vegetarian Monster, Betrayal and Berries in Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. So that's one of the recipes that I've prepared for today. But we're not going to talk about Frankenstein. Now, the reason I started with this one is that March was Women in Horror Month, and Mary Shelley's Frankenstein is, of course, probably one of the seminal works in Gothic literature, as well as probably sci-fi and horror, so it's a really important work, and it's a great book. If you ever get a chance to read it, I read it in high school. I was surprised at how much I enjoyed it, because of course it's not like the movies. Aliana for her, hello, nice to see you here. If I don't answer you here, I'm going to see if I can follow the chat on my laptop. I don't know if that'll be easier, but we'll see what's going on there. So I'll be watching, kind of, it's like a meta thing, kind of watching myself. Cultist 271, hi, hello, thank you for being here. Okay, let me see if I can keep an eye on the chat over here. So I've got my things muted. I'm on a bit of a delay, but if you say hello, I will try to say hello back and acknowledge you. Hi. So where was I? Oh yeah, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. So, oh, you called the cops on me. Well, good on them. I hope that they're as on the ball as ever. So, it's illegal to be this beautiful. Well, thank you very much. The recipe that I'm cooking today, now, the recipe I'm cooking today is for acorn bread, and in the cookbook they talk about how the monster's a vegetarian because he does not want to hurt anybody, so he eats what he can find and scrounge on the ground. And in order to make acorn bread, you pretty much, my real name is Celine. Hi, Aliana for her. But again, you can call me Ella, you can call me whatever you like. Just don't call me late to dinner, as they say. So the monster pretty much eats what he scrounges on the ground. And I had a bit of a challenge with this one because acorn bread requires acorn flour. Now, I am not digging through the snow and scrounging acorns that probably have dog pee on them. And I'm certainly not going to go through the effort of processing them, boiling them down, grinding them into flour. So the recipe just says you can use other nut flour. And even that turned out to be a bit of a challenge because the only nut flour that is commercially available is almond flour. So that's what we're using. So this is technically almond acorn bread. The ingredients, if you're interested, are dry ingredients, 2 2/3 cups of acorn flour or other nut flour. In this case, we're using almond flour. 1/2 cup of superfine sugar. Excuse me. 2 teaspoons of baking powder, pinch of salt, teaspoon of ground cinnamon. I put in a little bit more because I love cinnamon. And then the wet ingredients, 1 medium egg beaten, 1 cup of milk, 2 tablespoons of unsalted butter melted. Now I did use salted butter just because, hi John Preston, just because I don't feel like breaking out the unsalted butter. I think we have some, but I'm not 100% sure. So in the time since I last posted anything here, Allegories Horror Stories, last book reviews, I have read a few books. I read The Bad Seed, that was pretty good. I was surprised at how much fun that one was. I read Logan's Run, which was a little bit more of a grind. It wasn't horrible, but it wasn't great. I think it was more of an interesting premise than the result. And I read Dangerous Kiss by Jackie Collins. Hi, Lee Hoon. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing that. 05Q. I love grandma. Well, I'm glad you love grandma. I guess I'm old enough to be a grandma, but I'm not actually grandma because I don't have any kids. So, Dangerous Kiss, which I can review for you if you like. I also read Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier, and I will be talking about that in a future Cookin and Bookin show if you like. But the other book that I read, and that's the one that I want to talk about today, is Parable of the Sower by Octavia Butler. And that's another reason I chose the acorn bread, because the main character really likes acorn bread. So it's, I found it quite fitting to talk about in the context of the show. Well, the channel. All right, so now we've got the dry ingredients together. I mixed all these up beforehand. There's no need for you to watch me measuring things out. And then the instructions say to make a well, which kind of isn't easy to do, but we'll just make a little cavern here. And then whisk together the wet ingredients, add it to the dry ingredients, and my melted butter is not as melty as it was, which was okay for pancakes yesterday, but is not quite as good for bread. So we'll see how this goes. And then we're just going to mix this up. Now it says to whisk it, but I don't have a clean whisk, so we're just going to use a spoon. Ooh. And I am covered in the requisite flour splotches. Now, I guess I'll talk about Dangerous Kiss. It's the 5th book in the San Angelo series by Jackie Collins, which the Brits so lovingly refer to as bonk busters, because of the predominance of sex and lots of exotic places. Plus, the books usually tend to be very long, north of 500-600 pages, which of course Dangerous Kiss was as well. Smells pretty good. Now it said so in the previous one, Vendetta, Lucky's Revenge, oh, I'm not adding that. Sorry. YouTube has all these weird, helpful suggestions of stickers. And the question that it's saying is, are you a bath or shower person? I don't think that's anybody's business. So Dangerous Kiss is the next installment in the saga. And it starts on a night when Lucky has decided to announce that she's going to step down from her job as the head of Panther Studios. And her husband is late to the party, and it turns out that he gets carjacked, and a member of Lucky's circle is shot and dies. And so Lucky has to find out what happened and potentially seek revenge. And we also see more of her stepdaughter, Bridget, well, goddaughter, I guess she would be. And Bridget has an absolutely terrible time with men. One thing I'm not liking about the Bridget character is that it becomes this damsel in distress. It's like every time something horrible happens, it happens to Bridget. But I still continue my opinion that the San Angelo series absolutely needs to be a TV show. It would be fantastic. I heard a few years ago that it had been optioned as a 3-movie deal, but how are they going to cram 10 600-page novels into 3 movies? It's just can't be done. So we'll see how that goes. But nothing seems to have happened, and especially with the passing of Jackie Collins, it seems to be either canceled or still up in the air. But eventually the rights revert, and if there are any TV, Netflix, Hulu, anybody out there, absolutely should be a series. So the dough is ready. Now the instructions say it is going to be very wet and sticky. So let's get this into the prepared pan, which again I previously greased and floured. Yeah, I think I should put this down. And it's a holiday here in Canada, Good Friday. I believe it's Good Friday in Europe as well, and States, if I'm not mistaken. So I hope that Good Friday brings some good news or some family time. And I don't seem to have anybody watching, so that's okay. I'm just sitting here talking to myself. But, hi, Lily. The dog just came out of the bedroom. Okay, so here's my wet and sticky loaf of almond acorn bread, which, by the way, I don't think, other than banana bread, I don't think I've ever actually baked anything. So there's the loaf, and we'll put it in the oven. It's got to cook for about 20 minutes. 12 o'clock on the dot. Good. So excuse me a second, my eyes itchy. Now, as you can see, I'm a little puffy these days. Not that I'm not always puffy, but I'm particularly red. I had a really bad reaction to sulfa antibiotics. Don't wish it on my worst enemy, but I'm covered in hives and bumps and an itchy rash. So I'm taking antihistamines, but I think it's just got to take some time to get out of my system. And yes, I have a nice big mug of tea too. Oop. Get these dishes out of the way. The dog's playing ball. So the other book, the main book that I wanted to talk about today, which we can talk about while the bread is baking, is Parable of the Sower by Octavia Butler. Now, this one was excellent. I highly recommend it, especially in these somewhat dystopian times, because it was quite prophetic for its time. So it was published in 1993 by Octavia Butler. I've previously reviewed Kindred on this channel, and the reason I picked it up in the first place, which kind of led me into reading it, I was watching this TikTok video, and the person pointed out that the ICE agents in the States, who have been doing all the violence and intimidation and so on, are attacking northern states near the Canadian border. So Oregon first, and then Minnesota, and now they seem to have moved into Vermont, where last I heard they were tear gassing people, but haven't been widely reported on. Now, I'm not really going to get into the politics of it, just because if we did, I would sit here and rant forever. But they pointed out that in Parable of the Sower and Parable of the Talents, this is a move called kettling, which is not intended to keep people from coming out of Canada into the States, but of preventing people from leaving the States going into Canada. So I thought that was a really interesting thing to point out. And they said that, yeah, Octavia Butler kind of had her finger on the pulse of what's happening right now, and it's kind of scary. So the book is set in 2025 through 2027, and it's set in Los Angeles, and it's modern times, but not I guess you'd call it an alternate history, even though it's not technically the past yet, but it will be in another year. And so this world that she creates, it's based on, it's told from the perspective of a teenager by the name of Lauren. And Lauren lives in a gated community in a small town near Los Angeles. It's a fictional town. And in this gated community, the economy is so bad that most people don't have cash money. Most people work either for room and board, or they have a barter system. So Lauren helps her stepmother, who's a teacher, teach the kids how to read and write. And everybody wants to go north where they can find jobs for money, but they're also pretty skeptical, because if you leave the gated community, there's a lot of very scary people. So people who have been homeless for a long time, who live very violent, nomadic kind of lives. And there's a new drug that's been introduced that makes people, crave fire. It's called pyro, and people are just completely crazy, right? So this is a very scary new world, and the politicians don't do anything. Fire and police are completely corrupt, and if you call them, they might show up, they might not. They'd be more likely to arrest you than to help the citizens who've been victimized. It's just a really, really total, what TV tropes called a crapsack world. And there's a large corporation that has company towns that some people can go and live at and work, but essentially it's indentured servitude. And what makes it so prophetic is that if the economy, you could easily see the way that things are with a lot of people being out of work, with AI replacing a lot of jobs, with corporate oligarchy being more of the sort of politic of the day. You could really see the world becoming like this. And so Lauren, she lives her life and she uh, teaches her trade. She keeps her diary. But the thing that sort of keeps her going is that she believes in a fundamental religion she calls Earthseed, which is the idea of God behind everything. So it's really, really, really worth a read, I would suggest. I think it's a very prophetic, very close to what the world could very well be. The only thing that in 1993 Octavia Butler didn't really foresee was the rise of the internet, and everybody, their face is glued to a phone. But in a world where nobody can afford water, let alone electricity, it makes sense that nobody has a phone, right? Just my nice big cup of tea. So if anybody has any suggestions of books that they would like me to cook from, or if you think that this is something I should keep doing, or just let me know. The other book that I read this week is Rebecca, but there's a chapter in the Gothic cookbook for Rebecca, so I think I want to make that one its own show, Cookin and Bookin. Yeah, I think that is the review. Let's see, did I read anything else in the meantime? So I read, so I was going to tell you about The Bad Seed and Logan's Run. Logan's Run is, it's set in a very dystopian world. Again, I was big on dystopia this past couple of months, and I saw the movie years and years ago. And Logan's Run is about a young man, and everybody in this society is young because they've decided that on their 21st birthday, everybody has to die. So most people just get hunted down and neutralized. But some people decide to go on the run and look for sanctuary. And Logan, the main person, the main character, is actually one of the hunters that takes out people whose time has come. But when so everybody has it's basically a tree of life, and it changes color at the different stages of their lives. So 1 to 7 is the first stage, 7 to 14 is the second stage, 14 to 21 is the third stage, and it's a different color each time. And the last one, I think, is red, and then on your last day it goes to black. And once it goes to black, you're not, you're kind of an unperson at that point. Noah 432 TYO, hi Noah. And so Logan kind of is resigned to his fate up to the point when he actually has to face, hey, it's his time. So he meets up with a girl at an apartment complex where he's been invited to a party, and they decide to go on the run together. And their run takes them kind of, they go up to the Arctic and they fight off the people there, and then they end up, near, what do you call it? Mount Rushmore, and they kind of fight off the people there, and there's like a national park, and androids fighting a Civil War reenactment, and there's, I got something stuck to my foot. There's not a lot of detail on how they kind of get from place to place, so you're just meant to accept that they get from place to place, and nobody sees them, and nobody's like really on the hunt. What is one thing you would say to the world? Arrest everybody in the Epstein files. That's all I got to say to the world right now. Because the more I watch and study, the more difficult it seems from a legal perspective that it's going to get to be sure that the victims see justice. And I'm very cynical that the people who have escaped the law this far are ever going to see the inside of a prison cell. But they deserve to be punished to the full extent of the law. And yeah. So the one thing I want to say to the world is prosecute the people in the Epstein files. Throw them all in jail. Where was I going with that? Oh, Logan's Run. So I found the ending a little bit unsatisfying. I found the overall book kind of unsatisfying. I found it to be a better premise, really, than execution. Execution being, I guess, an operative word there. The concept of, and the backstory of why they came to be this kind of society was actually really the most interesting part of the book. Logan isn't a particularly interesting protagonist, and his plight, while you can kind of feel for them, because, 21, you haven't really lived or seen much, and it's a scary world that you got to live in until you get to that point. But it's still, I think it was partly because the book is fairly short. It's just a novella, so it's less than 200 pages. And the author crams a lot in such a short time. So it felt like there was a lot that could be expanded on, especially with the world building. But there are a couple of sequels, so I may pick those up eventually. And then I also read The Bad Seed, which is told from the perspective of a woman whose daughter is this, she's a very sweet girl. She has her little pigtail. She's perfect when she's always talking to adults. Everybody thinks she's, a wonderful child. But strange things start happening when she wants something and doesn't get her way. And as the story progresses, we see what a truly bad little girl this girl is. So it's definitely worth a read. It was well paced, not overly excessive, but the characters were well drawn, and you kind of find yourself going, man, that guy kind of deserved it. Because if you know what somebody is capable of, why would you taunt them and poke the bear? And that's exactly what this guy did. And you're like, don't do that. But of course, the guy thinks he's invincible, and he's not. I haven't seen, I think I saw the 90s one with Elijah Wood and Macaulay Culkin a long time ago. But I don't think I've seen any of the movie adaptations of The Bad Seed. So I think that's all the books that I got through in the last couple months. So Logan's Run, The Bad Seed, Dangerous Kiss, Parable of the Sower, and then Rebecca, which is going to have its own Cookin and Bookin, because there's another recipe in the Gothic cookbook that I want to try. All right, we got just 6 more minutes left to go. Do you think we can fill another 6 minutes of just me talking? Probably not. All right, let's see what's going on over here. Oh yeah, Parable of the Sower. Parable of the Sower also has a sequel called Parable of the Talents, which I'm looking for, and I will be reading that one next. I'll probably get back to you once I've got that. Strange how far behind my my chat is on the other side there. The dog just came out. Hi, Lily. Hey, Lily, you come hang out with me. See if I can get her up here. Come here. Lily. No, she doesn't want to see me. I'll get her on camera eventually. Lily is not a dog who likes to pose for the camera very much. So, where was I going with that? Oh yeah, Parable of the Sower. I forgot to mention that I did actually listen to the audiobook of that one, not the physical book, not the reading book. And I cannot for the life of me remember the reader's name, and I can't look it up right now, unfortunately, so I do apologize. But the audiobook reader, I think, really did contribute a lot to creating this lovely voice, and to bringing the story to life. It's because it's told from the point of view of a diary, there's sort of an immediacy, and having the right voice really really adds a richness to the character. So I appreciated that. That's one of the reasons I like audiobooks so much. So the audiobook of Parable of the Sower was awesome. The only other thing going on book-wise right now is the March 31st was Trans Day of Visibility, and I picked up a collection of trans body horror from Ghoulish Press, and that one's called Bound in Flesh. So I've picked it up. I haven't quite started reading it, but I will be reading some of that. I'll probably do a review a little bit later in the month, and that's gonna be, I seem to recall a few years ago, at least 2 years ago, that April was a month set aside for trans authors. So, because March 31st being Trans Visibility Day. So if it's not, then why not, right? So I'm going to try to read at least one trans author this month. And April is also Poetry Month, so I've got The Quiet Ways I Destroy You by Jessica McHugh on the Kindle. Unfortunately, I couldn't afford the hard copy. I do like to have the hard copy book so I can show you, but it's very pricey. It's over $50, so I couldn't afford it this month. Excuse me. But I chose that one because it's based on Little Women, and there is a Little Women cookbook, so I can do more Cookin and Bookin if people see this and enjoy it and decide that they want to see more. So the bread is almost ready. I can smell it. It smells pretty good. Is somebody at the door? No. Okay. Let's see, is there anything else? So no, just the Jessica McHugh. I'm going to do an upcoming review of Rebecca and at least one trans author. So those are my plans for April. Hopefully something interesting will come of that. And I'd like to do more lives. I'd like to do more Cookin and Bookin. I don't know if the dog's into something. Okay, so it looks like it's been 20 minutes. Let's take out the bread and see what's going on with that. My fork's not exactly clean, but it'll have to do. It's looking kind of crumbly. I don't know if it's actually finished. baking, or if that's about as good as we're gonna get. Oh no, it's still got a ways to go. Not anywhere even close to done. Well, I guess I'm not going to get a chance to show you my final creation because I think I'm about ready to wrap up here. But I would like to say thanks to John Preston, Leehun 05Q, Noah 432, Aliana 4 Herd, Julian, Cultus 271. So all the people that popped in and said hello and hung around for a bit. I know I don't have anybody watching right now, but that's okay. Maybe somebody will check this on a review or rewatch soon. And yeah, join me next time for Cookin and Bookin. And I hope you have a wonderful Easter weekend. And I hope you're reading lots of horror. Have a great day.